Okay. Hey guys, so this is a very special class and it holds a lot of meaning. My name is Sweta Iyer and I'm here to talk to my really dear friend and also someone I have a lot of respect for, her expertise, her experience with Egypt, and also there's a lot of things that she will be talking to us about. Her name is Dee Kennedy and I want to give her a moment to introduce herself. Today's class is our mastery class and it's called Introduction to Sacred Geometry. If you're kind of wondering what this has to do with your consciousness, your life, how does this impact you? That's why we're bringing this class with someone who has had more than 10 years of experience in this subject matter and different things that connect us to the universe. She's an absolutely magical woman, and I have learned so much from her. So I'm very excited for you guys to understand this. And as you know, all my guest experts, I'm very proud to present you to them. So she is definitely in top of the creme de la creme, as we say. So I'm going to let Dee introduce herself, and we will get started on this. So Dee, it's all you.
Sweta, thank you so much for having me on today. Thanks for inviting me. It's a pleasure. My name is Dee Kennedy. I am a mystic high priestess, and I have been training, traveling, and working in Egypt over the last 12 years. I run sacred tours there, and which means I bring people through the initiatic path of the temples and the pyramids, and we do that over a 2-week period where we go deep into the mysteries of Egypt, ancient Egypt. That's sort of relevant to what I'm talking about today. Sacred geometry is very much woven into everything ancient Egyptian, and you'll see it's actually woven into the fabric of our very reality. It's just something that the ancient traditions, not just the Egyptians exclusively, all of the ancient civilizations and the ancient world, the indigenous tribes also, this is sort of a fundamental fabric of how spirit expresses itself. So I do other stuff in my life too, in the art and whatnot.
Well,
that's
yeah.
kind of it.
And I think I put the link there. So if you want to learn more about her website is there. She's got a gorgeous website. The reason I feel that, and we have quite a few more people that have joined us. Okay, great. You guys, you haven't missed anything. We were literally just doing an introduction of Dee. We will be getting into the content, so it's awesome that you guys are able to join us right now. Replay will be available. So we're going to actually get right into it. One of the things that I find very fascinating, Dee, is that when you hear sacred geometry, it sounds kind of like mathematical, but then you have the word sacred in front of it. And you start to say geometry is mathematical. Sacred seems to be something woo-woo, like, people like, that's the word that people like to use, or consciousness. What does this have to do with my life? How does it affect me? What can it possibly give me? What can it possibly tangibly help me in my life? I guess, what is sacred geometry?
Yeah, so let's have a look at the two words. So geometry actually means earth measure. So we're linking immediately to the natural world through the earth. So the measure of the earth. Sacred, of course, denotes veneration of something godly, something sacred, something of the God, something of God, of high vibratory connotation. So you're putting the two of these together. Sacred geometry is, if you will, it's a language of the divine. It's a language of nature. It's a language, actually it's been called the language of silence, which I love. For those of you who meditate, that will resonate with you, the language of silence, and also the language of light. So it has all these incredible terms that it expresses. I like to call it the language of nature, because I think that is easy for people to interpret, because we are natural beings living in a natural world, even though we're, in our modern technological world, we're still, all of that still comes from the earth. All of our computers and our iPhones and our everything, everything comes from the earth, no matter what, including us. And that's where it all returns to. So yeah.
That I'm really struck, and I just want you guys to know this is an introduction. This is a very, very, very basic understanding. So if some of the stuff feels a little much, this is literally just the very basic, and Dee is very good at kind of fine tuning it. But Dee, one of the things that struck me is what you said. It's a divine language. It's the language of silence, language of light, language of nature. So interestingly enough, I would have never thought sacred geometry is a language. So the fact that you expressed it that way shifts my understanding a little bit. So it's almost like a communication with the divine, but it's in a very symmetrical form, I guess. I don't know if that.
Yeah, kind of a tangible. So also, and this just came to me right now, sacred and geometry, we're always working with polarities with a lot of the sacred teachings, and how they unify or how they express oneness. So sacred being sort of the mysteries, of the unseen, of the the godly realm, if you will, of the spirit realm, and then geometry being sort of tangible and physical or mathematics. So you have left brain and you have right brain, you have male and female, which makes up it all. It's the motions of spirit, if you will.
Wow. Well, I know for sure that I actually, the way you're breaking it down, it makes me feel like I want to study this more, because now I'm not thinking of math. I'm thinking of something deeper. So
it's actually, that's a good point, because when I got into this, the first sacred geometry book that I got was in 2001. And it was, a lot of people will be familiar with it. It's kind of a classic now. It's called The Flower of Life by Drunvalo Melchizedek. And one of my sacred geometry teachers studied under him, Bob Frizzle. And I got that book, and it really, like, a lot of it impacted me hugely. And then so much of it went over my head because of the mathematical part, that I just felt like, oh, I can never understand that, because I'm not a mathematical expert or whatnot. But really, as time progressed, especially my work in Egypt over the last 12 years, it really actually brings it all back to the majesty of the human and the world, or the universe that exists within us. And that's down through the ages, from every tradition, every religion, everything goes, all the avatars, all the prophets, all of them talk about this the greatness that is within the human, that we are made in the likeness, if you will, of the divine. So we are like a seed of the tree, which holds the image of the tree within the seed, because a new tree can come out of a seed, right? So that's like, a lot of people will be familiar with the image of the flower of life. It's very popular now. It's really gained a lot of momentum, and it's kind of telling of the times we're in, where we're waking up to, I suppose, more ancient knowledge, where we have a capacity now to interpret and understand and integrate more of the ancient teachings, and there's a thirst for it. There's actually, happy International Women's Day, right?
Yeah.
Woo! That's interesting. We're doing this today because these are the teachings, if you will, that sort of went underground for a long time. They really did. They existed, and they popped up through the Renaissance, through Leonardo da Vinci, through different, different artists, different movements and whatnot down through the ages. But a lot of these teachings got either lost or went into hiding. And you had a period of darkness where there's, you know, you had the Holocaust of women, you have, and still to this day we're reverberating from that. So I think, you know, going into these sacred arts is really important for bringing back that information, which
Yes.
is empowering,
Yes.
which allows for balance. That's the
Absolutely.
return of the divine feminine, which is the return of balance. It's not really that feminism suddenly takes over patriarchy and we're all, you know, on that state. No, it's actually about balance. It's actually about coming back to balance. Um, so yeah,
So
I
it's
yeah.
no. I think it's all it. You know how it always flows. One of the things, actually, two things that I want to tell you guys is this is a very special class because we have been trying to coordinate this and schedule this for about a month now. And one of the things that I realized through the eclipses is there was a lot of things that were just not panning out. There were just technical glitches. There was so much going on, which is interesting because you would expect Mercury retrograde to do that. But literally today this happened, and today is the day of the divine feminine, because if I'm right, today is also the 8th, and 8th is infinity, it's the divine feminine, it's
Mhm.
creation. So it's interesting that today we all came together, and everybody who's in this class can actually understand that you guys are in the midst of huge shifts and changes. And I liked what you said about bringing the ancient teachings back. It's not about bringing old fashioned trends back. It's about bringing ancient wisdom that has affected us on so many levels. Now,
Mhm.
um,
Yeah, the suppression of that has affected us detrimentally. You
exactly.
know,
Yeah.
now we're in an age where with technology, with the means of like doing a class like this, with people all over the world joining in at one moment, it's an
Yes.
amazing time, and it's a really exciting time to start exploring the sacred arts. And everybody is drawn to something different,
Hmm.
which is perfect because, you know, we're dealing with something that's very vast here. We're dealing with spirit expressing itself. Okay, so it's not going to express itself in one way, and sacred geometry proves that. So that is sort of, I think, a sort of a scientific proof that there's not one religion that has all the answers. There's not one political system that has all the answers.
Mm.
It's all of it makes the whole. So that's I think something that
Something to sort of kind of,
to
I
sort
think
of,
something,
yeah, to
yes,
ponder.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. And another thing I want to say about Dee is that she's actually Irish, so she's from the Celtic tradition. Now, I cannot claim to know much, even though my birthday is on St. Patty's and I've called myself an
That's
honorary
right.
Irish. But Dee comes from a very ancient tradition, just like I do. And what happens is there is something in your blood, almost in your, I don't want to say in your DNA, but there's something in you that feels that sort of pull. Now, you might feel that pull too, but coming from that, Dee, did you see sacred geometry in the Celtic tradition too? Like, is that, it's not just an Egyptian
For
thing?
sure. For
Okay.
sure. Especially now with the lens I have now, I can like look at um, what we have in Ireland are sacred sites all over the country. There's still a lot of mystery and whatnot surrounding them. Um, I'd like to just say that the earth as a living organism, as a body as itself, very is the same as us, where it has points and it has meridians. It has a
Mm,
system of how the energy moves through it, and the ancient traditions understood that, and they were specific
mm,
where they placed their um, areas of worship, where they built incredible structures, many of which are still surviving today in Ireland. We have dolmens, we have stone circles. They align to solstices, to equinoxes, to
wow.
celestial movements,
Wow.
Sirius. You see that in Egypt as well. Everything earthly reflects the cosmos. So as above, so below. Therefore, what if it's reflecting the cosmos there, then it's also as the human engaging in acts of ritual of and whatnot at these sacred spaces. By that same virtue, you're embodying the cosmos with
Mm-hmm.
you,
Mm-hmm.
right? Um,
Can I ask you to just elaborate, because I think this might be, and guys, if you want
Yeah.
her to elaborate on something, just put it in. It's not a Q&A, but I will take that and just ask her. So you said something, everything in the divine is reflected in the human or in the earthly sphere. And you said
Right.
it goes back to saying as above is as below. And I think this is now starting to be very fascinating to me, because sacred geometry is not just telling me that, is there something that looks symmetrical, but this is now going to remind you that you're connected to the divine. Am I kind of on the right path here?
Yeah, yeah. It's like the laws of nature, the code of nature, the language of nature, how nature creates, how nature destroys, how nature moves, and how it expresses itself. So, um, for example, conception, it can be broken down into sacred geometry. You have the ovum, which is the sphere. You have the sperm, which is the straight line. You have the two of them coming together. The tail gets lost, and the head of the sperm and the ovum create a vesica piscis. I actually kept I wish I had better diagrams, but I'm going to just show quickly. So that's a vesica piscis.
Oh, wow. Look at that.
Okay, and this
Whoa.
creation, so cells go through this. Obviously,
Whoa.
this is 2D on the page. These are three-dimensional,
Right.
uh, three-dimensional forms. And then this is the platonic solids that's connected into those as well. So I invite everybody to explore those themselves. That in and of itself is a huge body of work to study. But yeah, so cells, the way that life itself is created within the womb.
Wow.
Of all the principles of sacred geometry. I also have this lovely conch shell. You can see
Wow. Yep. Yep.
perfect spiral.
Yep.
It's obviously painted. My
Right.
husband did the painting on it. But if you look at the spiral, again, you have this expression in nature where you have spirit and matter coming together.
Wow.
You have spirit and matter creating infinite creations.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. So the temples in Egypt, which is a really interesting note, that the temples in Egypt are built in accordance to these sacred codes, these sacred numbers. We have pi, we have the golden mean, we have the spiral, and the Fibonacci sequence.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
to all speak about the perfection in geometry, and the temples in Egypt were built very, very exactly to those codes.
Mm-hmm.
And by virtue of that, when you stepped inside the temple was alive. So the temple reflected the same geometry that you went through when you were conceived, that your cells go through, that nature goes through, plants, flowers, the cosmos, everything goes through these patterns. And so they understood that if you applied that exact same sequences to architecture, that the architecture itself became alive. And you see,
So my mind's like totally blown. I don't know if anyone else is having this moment. Like, it's just, whoa. So these are alive structures, and we always talk about how energy is the only thing that's real. Everything is energy, everything is energy. To me, this is a very concrete way of experiencing that. So when you go into these, so you can get shifted on a DNA level. Would that be?
yeah,
Wow. Okay.
for sure. And actually, we're talking about ancient temples, but we can look at our modern world. We can look at Washington, D.C., which is built in the Masonic structure, which dates back, if you follow it back, it goes back to ancient Egypt. The entire layout of Washington, D.C. is all done in sacred geometry. And I invite you all to go and do your homework on that and let your mind just get blown a little bit, because it's pretty amazing. And, we talk about just to segue for a second, if we're talking about Washington, D.C., which is the hub of the government for the United States, as we all know, what does that do? What does this do? It contains power. It contains and it amplifies power. So therefore, structures that are built in accordance to these laws, including many cathedrals and churches all over the world, a lot of the ancient sacred sites, they all can be broken down into these codes. So I just think it's kind of fascinating. You know, the United States is considered the superpower, dominating superpower, if you will. And where is the center of all of their power coming from? It's coming from this very explicitly elaborate, sacred, geometrical city that literally is kind of holding that power. So therefore, you know, you can see in the modern world, this is not so much like the temples in ancient Egypt, even though it's the exact same principles.
Right.
Yeah. So does that make sense?
Absolutely. I think
I want people to go, you know, if anything from this little introduction class, that you go and explore what I'm talking about yourself, and kind of go down the rabbit hole.
It is a rabbit hole. So I think this is amazing, and I can't even imagine what everyone's mind is kind of being blown by. But one of the things I wanted to ask you is, so it looks like with these structures, sacred geometry, we can apply these laws. How do Dee will be doing a meditation in a little bit, but how does that then, would the meditation sort of help us understand how we can apply it to our own individual body? Like,
yeah, well, this is a big thing. Experience is really what integrates. Because right now we're having this conversation, we're using our left brain, our logical mind, right? Our mind is trying to interpret everything I'm saying, everything you're saying, and especially when we're talking about mathematics and geometry, you know, that's very left brain. To shift over, you know, closer to the end of the class, we're going to do a meditation, and the meditation will allow you to experience a sacred geometrical pattern and feel it in your body. And that is something that you can certainly use as a tool to connect to your own geometric field. You can look at the most people are familiar with Leonardo da Vinci's Vitruvian Man, right, where you have the Star of David and the cube around the outstretched man. So what he's talking about there is the energy field. That's a sacred geometrical energy field that's around everything living. He was a mystic, and he was also a mason, a master mason. So he understood all of these ancient teachings, and that's what we're going to experience in the meditation, to kind of tap into, like, okay, we have these geometric fields that are actually in motion around us all the time. That's another really cool thing. Nothing is stagnant, right? It's always moving. It's always in motion. And I think there's a huge issue with studying a lot. I'll use Egyptology as an example. The faculty of Egyptology is very focused on the facts that you know, a lot of theories that have become accepted, but the experiential part of the meditation, of the sacred arts, of the esoteric arts, which is fundamental in Egypt, is not present in sort of mainstream Egyptology. And you find that with a lot of things. You find that with you find it in many different faculties where I think experience is really the sacred part of integrating the geometry.
And I think also the fact is, and I think I'm glad you brought that up, Dee, because I think a lot of people think taking a workshop or just taking a class will give you that experience. But I think practice and experience is, there is nothing will ever hold a candle to that. There's just no way. And I think we've discussed, when you have been doing something, you've been practicing for a long time, it's almost like getting a PhD. Uh, so Dee brings the energy of Egypt in her. Like she vibrates that. She's in there, and she comes from a very ancient experience. And I think one of the things, Dee, we had talked about was how. I think it's very interesting when you're talking about sacred geometry. I don't think I quite appreciated how much in India they do have that. So the temples are based on, which this is now like giving me that sort of bridge. But I think the other thing we talked about was mandalas and yantras. And I don't know, I'll just share what I felt from that. So yantras are sort of the physical representation of energy. That's how I kind of describe it. It's a very tangible way of looking at something. And then, people do rituals and ceremonies, and it's imbued with energy and power, kind of like how crystals are. And you can do a lot of ceremonies on your own. I know for me, my altar, everything always gets infused with energy. And, they're not yantras, but they are definitely objects. Mandalas are really powerful, and you can see them in so many different places. The Buddhists, they make these beautiful mandalas that are very intricate, a lot of geometrical representation. And again, when you meditate on these things, I just think you feel it in your body. It's an amazing experience. I mean, it does take you as an out of body. And I don't know for how many people it's felt like when Dee is talking about some of these things, you can feel it in your body, because she's really focusing on sharing something that is very powerful and ancient. So if you guys are feeling things, allow yourself to feel it. It's a really good thing. But Dee, what do you?
I was just going to elaborate on that a little bit, because I think that's a really, really great topic to talk about for a second. Is mandalas, yantras, words of power, prayer. These are direct, if you will, from the divine expressions of vibration. So everything, we're going back again, everything having a vibration, everything having a pattern, having a code, having a number. Everything can be broken down into numbers. Everything can be broken down into these specific expressions. So meditating and contemplating on whether it's a mandala from the Buddhist tradition, from the Hindu, from whether it's the flower of life or one of the Platonic solids. Pythagoras used the tetrakas, which is 10. It's a pyramid with 10 dots.
What is it called?
The tetrakas. That's okay. Tetry, tetrakas.
Okay.
Tetrakys, YS at the end, tetrakys, TETRAKYS. That was the expression of all the numbers from 1 to 10.
Wow.
10 being the perfection, and 1 also being the unity consciousness. And I really invite people as well. Pythagoras is amazing, because he's sort of, if you will, I know he's a long time ago, he's like the 400-ish BC, but his teachings are sort of the closest that we have left modernly from the Egyptian lineage, because he actually studied and trained in Egypt for many years, and he perfected his geometry, his understanding of geometry, and his understanding of mathematics in Egypt.
Okay.
So I really invite people to also explore Pythagoras as a mystic. He's a mystic. Beyond him, as like we know pi, and we know maybe from school, we were like, whatever, Pythagoras. But no, he's an amazing enlightened being, avatar. And there's a story about him that when he went to Egypt, he knew he was to study with the priests and priestesses there, but they didn't allow outsiders in. You had to be born into that lineage. You had to be prophesized. You had to be, very highly trained before you were allowed into those mystery teachings. So he, having perfected his own consciousness through many different studies and practices, when he came to Egypt, the priesthood put him through very rigorous initiations that they were sort of sure he was going to fail, and you could die in those initiations. And he excelled at all of them, and they were completely blown away and realized, okay, he is an avatar. He is. We need to share. We need to take him in and share with him. So he studied with them for a very long time. There's other people that down through the ages, like Moses and Jesus, that were known to also have studied in Egypt for periods of time, which led to their enlightenment. So yeah, I invite people to really check out. Actually, I made loads of notes because, you know, I'm trying not to tangent too much, but I have a cool quote here. It's from the Pythagorean school, and it says, just as words are appropriate for communicating common thoughts, numbers have the power to lead the soul through its rational part to an understanding of external forms. So I love that. He also said that numbers, to see numbers as archetypes, or see figures as archetypes, not for profit. So, you know, we think of numbers, we think of money, we think of exchange, we think of the stock market, we think of, you know, but actually look at them as archetypes. And I'm sure everyone on this call right now, or anyone watching this in the future, you have a number that you gravitate to. You have like, oh, that's my number, or oh, that shows up all the time, or it's your birth number, or it's something that, you know, it recurs. It's like your own personal, you know, omen, if you will. And so I love that quote, that to see numbers as archetypes, as guides. And then what are, you know, going back to the sacred geometry aspect of numbers, they're expressing nature. So here you have a perfect way for yourself to delve deeper into how nature is expressing itself to you. Does that make sense?
It's lovely. I'm just typing it out because I really like it. I have taken quite a few notes from these things, and like I said, this is obviously too vast a thing, but I wanted you guys to at least understand that there is something called sacred geometry. And I think I wish I had been taught this in school, so I would have had a different.
Yeah, I wish it is taught in school. Like we learned math from age 4 when we go to school in Ireland till age 18, and why weren't we taught all this? Why weren't we taught this? And, you know, again, it goes to that sort of suppression of the ancient arts, because all of this information is empowering. And the more you kind of go down the rabbit hole with it and start seeing it in your own life and how it expresses in your own life, it really, you develop a relationship with numbers, you develop a relationship with the information. And then actually over time, you can see things that are warning you. You can see things that are inviting you. You can see the yeses and the nos. You can see things in dreams more clearly. And you learn to understand the sacred geometry language per your experience, because all of this is, you know, there's fundamentals, and you can break everything down into fundamentals, but it has to be personalized, because we all have different backgrounds, we all have different upbringings, we all have different experiences in life that are completely unique. No two people have the exact same experiences through their whole life. So developing a relationship with numbers and developing a relationship with sacred geometry, something I like to say, you know, having a place in your home where like an altar where you can, a kind of a fun thing to do is with crystals, or with maybe shells or stones, something of nature, is to play around with with the forms. So, for example, the Platonic solids, the dodecahedron, is made up of pentacles, all intersecting pentacles. And I actually have one right here that my brother made. Woo.
I love that one.
He made it out of lollipop sticks, and then he made a real one out of copper, which is in his house. But I wanted.
He made that out of lollipop sticks. That's amazing.
Yeah. So can you see there that see the pentacle?
Yeah.
The 5-pointed star.
Mm-hmm.
So on your altar, you could place, 5 crystals in the shape of a pentacle and or a pentagram, and sit down with that and just observe what comes up. And a lot of this practice, it's not something you just learn and you get. It has to be integrated with experience. So therefore, sitting down and contemplating and meditating on these principles will allow them, and it will happen over time. Sometimes it can be very fast, sometimes it can take a little longer. We're all at different points in our in how we interpret things and integrate. But just exploring a perfect circle, doing a circle, and then sitting with that. So I think that's kind of a fun thing that you can do in your home. And what these do is they create fields of energy. We were talking about that earlier. So by virtue, like we were talking about the Egyptian temples, how they and the pyramids, they're very specific, mathematically specific to nature codes. So explore that yourself in your own life, in your home. You could also do it out in the park. You could place a stone circle around yourself and sit there for a few minutes and just feel. If you notice the difference being in sort of a field, I know that the use of pyramids is very it gained a lot of traction. The copper pyramids, people sitting in these copper pyramids and meditating, and that could be a whole class on itself about the power that's within the shape of a pyramid is incredible. So all of these, including the sphere, they all create vibratory fields. They all create fields that you can explore then yourself.
And it makes your would you say it would make your altar more alive? Because that's what we talked about, like how the temples became live because they were using these principles. So having these objects would make it more, you'd feel it. I that's what I'm getting a sense, that you can feel the power of it.
Yeah. And churches, cathedrals, they're all built where the altar is, where specific things are laid out. They're all of those rituals. If you look at a Native American ritual or a pagan ritual where you have circles within circles, you have certain words of prayer at certain times, you have objects that are placed in north, south, east, west, and center. What are they doing? That's sacred geometry. They're creating a field. They're creating a unified field through geometrical expression.
I love that.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at the time, Dee. I don't want I want to pause you. Just remember where it's 5. So we have about 15 minutes. I know you said 6 o'clock. So if you want to sort of, segue.
Yeah. So let's do a little experience. So what I'm feeling from, I didn't plan anything for the meditation. I usually allow the energies of what's happening in the moment to guide. So what I'm getting is to really, for us to experience our energy field and the geometric. So you have you have the sphere, you have the Metatron's cube, and you guys can look these up on your own. You have the star tetrahedron, which is the two intersecting pyramids. So okay, so let's just find a comfortable position. You don't have to be cross-legged. You can just be whatever way you want. Just gently close your eyes, and then take a few deep breaths where you trace the breath all the way down your spine, down to the perineum, down at the base of the spine, and then as you exhale, tracing the breath all the way back up and out the mouth of the nose, and just allowing yourself to settle into the observation of the breath, coming to witness awareness. And just one more really deep breath. Nice. So just feeling yourself dropped into your body, feeling the weight of your body on the floor, on a chair, on the couch, wherever you are, if you're lying down, just becoming aware of your temple. Your body is your temple. All of the temples were reflecting the sacred geometry that is within the human makeup. So you, therefore, are a temple. You are reflecting the cosmos. You are reflecting the language of the divine. We're just contemplating on you, your majesty, your magnificence. So bringing your awareness to your skin, the skin all over your body. So just for a few breaths, keep your awareness in the skin. So feeling the air in the room against your face and your hands and any skin that's exposed. Feeling your hair on your head. Feeling the clothes on your body. Feeling the ground that you're sitting on or the seat that you're sitting on. So your skin mass, the largest organ in your body, this is your container containing all of your physical self. This is an incredible organ that holds everything, literally holding everything together. So just honoring and thanking your skin for its function, for all it does. And now we're just going to shift our awareness from the skin mass to the area just that's touching the skin mass. So you could see it as the energy or the air, all that is surrounding you, but is the shape of your body. So keeping it sort of close to your body still. And just breathing from there. So you're breathing from just the outside of the skin mass. And notice any difference that you feel. Notice any, you might feel very deeply relaxed when you do this. You may feel a pulsating or just notice how you're feeling. And now taking that awareness, you're going to expand that awareness into a sphere, like a perfect circle. So just seeing that energy field just beautifully holding you in the center of a sphere, a perfect circle, and fill it with your breath. So with each inhale, with each exhale, the volume of the sphere is filled up with all of you, and you're able to perceive this perfect circle, this globe of energy. Nice. And bringing your awareness next into the center of your heart. I'm just taking a breath or a few breaths in the center of your heart and feeling the energy now from your heart is pouring out into this sphere. So you're filling the sphere up with the frequency, the vibration of your heart, which is pure love, pure self-love, pure unconditional love, universal love. Seeing the sphere filling up with all of that beautiful energy from yourself, from the core of yourself, from the depths of your heart. I'm just going to take a few more breaths here and using your awareness to witness you sitting inside a perfect circle, a perfect sphere that is full of your heart energy. If any thoughts are coming or going, just let them come and go. Just keep bringing your awareness back to the feeling that you're feeling when you witness the sphere. And from this space, you can affirm that you are perfect. I am perfect. Everything is perfect. Everything is as it should be. You are the divine. I am the divine. And bringing your awareness back to the breath. Take one last deep breath in this space. And then when you're ready, just slowly opening your eyes and allowing yourself to stay with the feeling. Just recognizing the feeling, vibration that your body is in.
Wow.
Um,
Well, I'm quiet because I'm just like feeling it. It was incredibly powerful. I'm just looking at the time. I know we have like maybe we'll have about like another 8 minutes or so. That was absolutely brilliant. If anyone wants to go ahead and ask her a question, the 2018 Mastery Path people get first dibs on it. So this is your opportunity. Go ahead and ask her live. And I'll let you guys do that. I know, Dee, thank you so much. This was an incredibly enlightening experience for me, and I love when something blows my mind. I mean, we both know that I love getting all this kind of information. So this is This is amazing. So guys, who wants to go first? This is your opportunity. I think this would be, unless you're completely relaxed from the meditation, that's fine too.
And that's a meditation that you can do, just in a few minutes, and using the frequency of the sphere. So just really I invite you to explore the other platonic solids, the cube, the icosahedron, dodecahedron, octahedron. So, oh, you're welcome, RD.
And I think Abhishek also said it was an amazing meditation.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, you guys, good. I'm glad. You guys, she really doesn't. She doesn't bite. You can ask her questions, just like I don't bite. You can ask questions. We are very.
I sometimes bite.
Oh man. Well, I will say this: like, if someone wants to jump in and ask, that's completely great. One thing I do want to say is,
yes.
I think, Dee is definitely, I consider her an expert. So one of the things that you guys will notice is somebody who takes a class, just like this class gives me information to go study. But this is somebody who's been doing this for 12 years, right? So she has a lot of insight. She has the experience. She has the background and the knowledge. So I would say she's an amazing resource. So you definitely want to check her out. Also, before she leads sacred trips to Egypt. I'm trusting that I'll be able to go at some point. Dee, before anyone asks, while they want to jump in and ask, why don't you tell us a little bit about your tour and when does it happen? Just give us a little bit of information about it, so if people want to check it out.
Yeah, sorry, my Zoom went mute for a sec. So the last thing I heard, you were mentioning the tours. Yeah, the next tour I do to Egypt is September 14th to the 27th. So it's a 2-week, fully immersive in the mysteries journey throughout all of Egypt. You get to go to all of the major temples and the pyramids. We have private time at them, and a whole lot of other really super fun and cool activities outside of the temple work. But if you want information on that, you can go to diva13.com/Egypt, and that's DEEVA13.com/Egypt, and you can read about that, and you can certainly send me an email. Oh, thanks, Sota. There it is on the screen. And if you want to pick my brain at all, feel free to send me an email, and I can send you over information on that. I would like to say, I hope everyone can leave today with some points of reference where to start with delving into this information, because it's a massive subject. I mean, it's kind of dealing with everything, really. But I recommend one of my teachers, Bob Frizzle. This is a really cool book. I know it's probably coming up backwards on your screen. It's called Nothing in This Book is True, but it's exactly the way things are. But I love Bob's sacred geometry breakdown. It's in here. I've had this book for so long, it's come everywhere with me. It's covered in notes and marks and falling apart a bit, but that's a really good resource. I've read lots and lots of different books, and I still keep going back to that one. Yep, title there on the screen, Bob Frizzle. I recommend his work highly on sacred geometry and just understanding that. And I also highly recommend Pythagoras and exploring Pythagoras as a mystic, his work in Egypt. For those of you that want to just continue going deeper into this, and really, what we said at the beginning, and I'll say it again after our experience is how you integrate this information. It is the expression of the divine. You are divine. So learning it with your left brain is only one side of the coin. You have to integrate the right brain. You have to integrate the creative side, and you have to incorporate that, and really just sitting down and doing simple meditation like we just did, where you're using the breath, you're creating the sphere, and the heart is, I mean, we all know how the majesty that is the heart, and not just what it does for our physical body, but how it is on the spiritual level as well. So just, you can always use that as your anchor. Always use that as an anchor with all of this work to help you expand your own understanding.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think one of the things I want to say, I think people are probably just feeling the meditation. We did have a really good group here, so I'm happy about that. I want to say a few things. I think what fundamentally shifted for me is to not look at sacred geometry is not removed from how I can experience the divine. It is another segue. I think you said something really beautiful. You said it's the language of nature. It's the language of silence, language of light. So it's a divine language. So this, for you guys, it's not that you're going to become Egyptologists or you're going to start doing sacred tools yourself. That's not what this is about. This is about you understanding the nature of consciousness and how it impacts you and how much it kind of brings you closer to understanding what the divine is. So, you know, if you were wondering, okay, how does this affect us? That's why the meditation for me was such a practical, tangible feeling of understanding that you are part of the divine, and that, you know, you reflect the divine. And as she said, it's the majesty, which I think is great. Oh, okay, great. We have so Ramla, go ahead, love.
Okay. Hi. Hi. That was really an incredible experience. And I was feeling my heartbeat the entire time, but towards the end, I almost felt like this movement, sort of like a slight rocking movement, but yet I was sitting still. That was really interesting.
That's the feel. That's what we were just.
It was wow.
Beautiful that you had that. Yeah, that's the energy field that we were talking about. That, you know, on a bigger level, that the temples were attuned to. So you being the temple and you creating the field. Well, the field's already there. You're just tapping into it. You're just being aware of it, and when you're aware of something, all the energy flows to it. So that's you tapping into the subtle vibrations that you already are. So it's I definitely invite you to explore that as much as possible, and in nature too. You know, using that meditation with the heart to allow, like you were just saying, you know, that vibration, that pulsing you were feeling, do that close to a tree, in your garden, in the park. Just, you know, you start exploring that sacred language that literally is all around us, you know. Or the moon, you know, on a any night you see the moon, you can interact with it. The sun, the same. You can do these meditations with everything that we witness in the natural world.
Yep.
Wow, thank you.
And thank you for that feedback.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ramla. I'm really glad that you guys are able to jump in and say something. Dia, there was one quick thing I wanted to add, because I think this might feel also more tangible. I think we said something about how numbers always make us think about money and bank balance and this and that. I feel that learning more about sacred geometry can start to shift that relationship from a place of fear to a place of expansion. Because what is my bank balance this right now? What is the message the universe is giving me? So in a very, it can be actually very empowering rather than feeling. Right. And I think that's really powerful. So that's something that I think kind of came to me off as you were teaching.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that like the numbers are archetypes. So they are reflecting so much information back to you, you know. So seeing them in a different way, seeing them symbolically, as well as, like, you know, that literal way we're taught to interpret numbers. So developing a new relationship with.
I love that. I think that's, to me, is very empowering. So guys, I think there's just so much to chew on and to think about. The replay will be in 2018 Mastery Paths. So that is something that I just wanted you guys to know. So it will be there, and you have access to Dee for a week. So watch the replay, chew on it, think about things that come up. I'll put on a lot of quotes that I took. So I think this was absolutely amazing. Is there anything, Dee, you want to leave us with, like last words before we wrap up the call? I want to be mindful of your time.
Sorry, my phone's ringing and muting the. Is there anything I want to leave you with? Just start exploring your relationship to this language. I would really encourage you to, play with the idea of your. There we go again. Yeah. So yeah, I would say enjoy the exploration, enjoy going down the rabbit hole with this, and it can be a lifelong journey.
Absolutely. And I just want to say this is not the last time you guys will be seeing Dee. We might, it might take us once in 3 months to get into a class, but when we come together, it's absolute magic. As you guys can see, it's very powerful. So we will be doing more things, and check her out, you guys. Super powerful stuff and really amazing. Thank you again so much, Dee, for your time, and much love to you. And we will be talking soon. Bye, guys.
Much love to you too. Love to you all. Peace. Blessings. Bye.